playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It should be illegal for Scottie Scheffler to play on the PGA Tour. This guy can't be stopped. Another victory at the BMW Championship. He has a chip on the 17th, which will go down in the history books. 82 feet, landed 60 feet short, and then rolled the rest of the way. Super exciting win again for Scheffler, who is not only the best golfer in the world, he's becoming one of the best golfers of all time.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
It doesn't matter that they're early in the game, late in the game, they're trailing, they're leading. It doesn't matter, garbage time. CeeDee Lamb is the guy, and we saw that even after Dak got hurt last year and Cooper Rush was under center. Targets were going to CeeDee Lamb. And when you can get 9, 10, 12, 15 targets on a game-by-game basis, he's going to rack up fantasy points every single week. Frankly, he underperformed last year.
Game time decisions, only on Sport.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fantasy Sports. Today, I'm Joey P. Joe P's up here with me, of course, is Matt Stryker, and we've got a great show for you today. As always, on Fantasy Sports today, we're going to look at some over-unders on some fantasy studs, whether they're going to go over or under their props. And guess what? You can use that for the betting market, too, using our fantasy projections. We're also going to talk about some of the leaders potentially coming down the pike in fantasy, also in reality. And, of course, a little ADP Would You Rather, all of the best of fantasy sports. And speaking of the best, my colleague Matt Stryker here on a lovely Sunday morning. Matt, we're almost done with the preseason, which is great. Preseason football is irritating. It's frustrating. Everything is either overrated or underrated. And I just want to get to football that counts. And we're getting closer and closer to that. How does that make you feel?
I think you hit the nail on the head. And what's up, everybody, and welcome in, because everyone is now pretty much drafting, right? We're drafting. I'm a firm believer, similar to guys like Craig Mish and others at this network, draft as close to week one as possible. I'm set up for a September 5th and 6th draft. I do have one coming up on the 31st as well. Can't resist. But I think you're really onto something here. And I think the longer the preseason goes, the more people make this mistake.
Well, there was some news breaking over the last couple of days in a trade. Let's start there because that's going to have an impact on not one, but two backfields. Let's start with Brian Robinson traded to the 49ers from the Washington Commanders. 6th-round pick, so obviously they weren't going to be giving up a lot. But really interesting because, Christian McCaffrey supposedly is fine. Everything's just fine. But Isaac Guerrero dealing with an injury. He was supposed to be the backup. Brian Robinson, very, I think, solid running back. I think that's the best way to define him. If you go back to his games in Alabama, Brian Robinson Jr. was incredibly solid on a good team. And I think he finds himself in that same situation now. Could he get some goal line work? Absolutely. And I think if you're looking at in years past, even before the McCaffrey injury, you saw Eli Mitchell and some other guys work in that backfield. So don't be shocked if this juncture during this period here of the Christian McCaffrey era in San Francisco, that maybe Brian Robinson works a little bit more than people realize. He'd also become the most valuable handcuff. Matt, your Commanders backfield looks a little bit different now. You've got Austin Eckler, you've got Rodriguez, and you've also got Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who is getting a lot of buzz. So to me, it's a backfield now that is a committee, and I'm not exactly sure how that committee is going to work out. Krosky-Merritt's ADP is soaring through the roof. I don't know if that's the right thing necessarily yet. I'm not sold on it, and I think I'm at peace with being left out in the cold on it. But how do you see this Washington Commanders backfield going forward now that it does not have Brian Robinson a part of it?
Yeah, so when this news broke, I kind of did the Scooby-Doo, but then talking to our producer, Sam Yarnell, we understand it's a contract situation. I believe he's in the last year of his contract, things like that. And it also says that Washington believes in their young running back core. And I also think it's interesting because you'll correct me here. Austin Eckler is still there, correct?
He is still there, right? Eckler's still there. Chris Rodriguez is still there. Yeah.
And Austin Eckler is essentially, so that tells me about what this offense may be trying to do. I'm always trying to get ahead, right? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. I'm always trying to think and look into the information and follow the money. And the final note on this is, Joe, you and I were talking before the show came on the air, and I believe you mentioned you'd expect maybe 10 to 15 carries a game for Robinson, something like that.
I think around 10 at minimum. I really think you're going to see a lot more of him, especially with some of the injuries they've had to the wide receiver group. I think it would be smart to run the football. Look, 49ers system is really good for running backs. I think we saw that last year with Jordan Mason. We saw it with Garendo. We've seen it in the past with McCaffrey. It's a system, and the system, the better the back is, the more productive they can be. But even Jordan Mason, I think a guy that a lot of people had low expectations for, solid running back, very productive when given that volume in that offense. And I think Brian Robinson Jr. has that at a minimum floor around 10 carries, somewhere around maybe a game. I think he could get there. But if something should happen to McCaffrey, he would be that guy. And then the Commander situation too, this, committee backfield. Austin Eckler is older. I don't think he's going to get all the work. I think a lot of this has to do with the finances. I think Brian Robinson had to get paid, and they didn't want to do that, and they need to find more money for Terry McLaurin. So once again, Matt, it always comes down to the same thing. It's about money. And they felt like they had enough here in this preseason at the running back position where they could shave some more payroll off. So we'll see if that leads to a Terry McLaurin deal sooner than later.
Yep, I like it. And also, San Francisco was also busy. They grabbed Sky Moore. So it just goes to show what that organization's mindset is going into the season. Let's talk about some other organizations. Let's maybe go to Cleveland. Right, Joe Flacco gets named starting quarterback for Week 1. I can understand the move, but it's going to start to beg the conversation between Sanders and his other counterpart. And I'd like to get your take on this. I believe it's the right move for Cleveland to do, to go with the steady Flacco in Week 1, just to establish themselves, because every week they lose or they underperform, they're going to fall deeply behind. Joe?
I agree 100%. It's Flacco to me is the clear starter here. It's just the amount of games he ends up playing. I would set the over-under at 8.5. And okay. I'm not exactly sure which way I want to go yet. Sanders has looked worse, I think, with every preseason game. Dylan Gabriel is still can't see over the offensive line. Kenny Pickett's not 100%. We've seen a lot of him before. Go ahead.
So yeah, because I'm excited. So all right, look, it's not an ad. You write the fantasy black book, right? So you understand this type of talk. Let's talk about Sanders and Gabriel here. Sanders elongates his pocket. He stays back way too long. He doesn't give his tackles any chance at all to really defend him. He forces himself to roll out too much. And I don't think Sanders knows who he wants to throw to at all. When you look at his counterpart steps up, shortens his pocket. No, there's just a different look to how they play the pro game. What's your thought on that?
My thought is that Sanders historically in college was a pretty good processor. I think it's just going to take time and reps for him at the NFL level to get there. Again, things have to develop and change, but the only way they develop and change is if you get more reps. And that's why this is kind of a weird situation, because theoretically you'd want the young star quarterback being right there behind the starter, but instead there's other quarterbacks in between, like Pickett and Gabriel. So to me, right, I mean, you're almost setting yourself up
in the pocket. Don't step back in the pocket.
Once again, the Browns just continue to make very little sense. And I set the over under 8.5 because guess when the bye week is, Matt? Week 9 for the Cleveland Browns. So think about that, right? If you're looking at that and you're looking at Cincinnati, Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Miami, and New England, how many wins are in there? Maybe 2? Maybe they could squeak out 2 wins in that grouping. That's tough. So you're going to be 2-6 heading into the bye. I think that's enough time where you could turn around and start to look at some of these other quarterbacks and where they might be. So Zach Charbonnet also supposedly going to have a significant role in Seattle. We'll see about that. Is that to keep Ken Walker healthier? Because he has trouble staying healthy through an entire season, but an interesting handcuff. If you're trying to control backfield, Seattle's a pretty good one because when Walker's out, Charbonnet can pick up those reins and be very productive. And you mentioned that Sky Moore acquisition too. The San Francisco 49ers trying to restock the cabinets. Injuries, always a big part of the game too, Matt. Matthew Stafford is day-to-day. Chris Godwin off the PUP list, but again, he's off the active PUP list, but I still don't think he's going to be ready for the start of the season. Devon Achane, that's the big one. He's still not practicing. He's dealing with a calf issue. And Stephon Diggs ahead of schedule, a guy I've been drafting with aggressive intent everywhere because I do believe he's healthy. And I do believe over the 17-game season, he is going to be incredibly productive as the wide receiver one with Drake May and the Patriots. But Devon Achane, that's the guy to talk about right now because he is a guy costing you late first round, early second round draft capital. He's not healthy. It's a calf issue. Jalen right behind him is hurt. Ollie Gordon, a player we're going to talk about more in the show, he looks really good in the preseason. Achane's not a guy that I want to start my team with anyway, and this kind of just solidified it. But, Matt, what are your thoughts on this Miami backfield here with Achane and the ADP still standing around the top 12?
It's a big no for me, dog. I just don't believe in the offensive line. I don't believe in the team culture at all. And it's hard for me because my father was a huge Dolphins fan because he loved Florida. But I don't want any part of them at all, and this reinforces it. Joe.
Yeah, it's tough. I will take Ollie Gordon, though. That's a player that had a good college career. I just watched some more tape on him, too. Probably an undersung hero of his college team. And I think early on, he's going to get a fair amount of work. And let's not forget, again, in this system, you're going to see multiple backs. You saw it with Mostert and Achane. You've seen it with other guys. So keep an eye on Ollie Gordon. When we come back, a little fantasy over-under. Don't go anywhere.
The Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson per me and Tom Pelissero. It's unclear if the NFL sack leader will be playing elsewhere in 2025, and a trade will be a real challenge, but time will tell. You know what's not a real challenge? In the offseason, when he doesn't want to be here and you're trying to make a trade for him. Most people that say, okay, I have to sell a house or sell a car, let me put it out on the market, and I'll take the best deal that's available.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, they get some good young pitching, but they can never hit. They got boppers in that lineup. They got electric strikeout guys in the starting lineup for the pitching staff. Like, I feel like I'm rooting that team in, but also not just rooting them in. I think there's a legitimate chance they can take it down, Craig.
Yeah, I think so. Remember, I think I came on your show at the beginning of the season and took Detroit at the beginning of the season with you guys, and now I'm feeling like, hey, I got a shot.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. And obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
NFL win totals created because of Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jimmy Johnson came into the NFL from the Miami Hurricanes, somebody asked him, hey, how many games do you think they're going to win? I want to bet it. And no one had ever done it before. Unbelievable, huh, Brady? And he said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to come up with a number. And he only came up for a number for the Cowboys. Then he said the phone started ringing.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
All right, everybody, welcome back into FST. It's Fantasy Sports today. Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia with you here, giving you just everything you need in order to dominate. Everyone here at the network is getting so excited. We're all just like little kids, and we know you are as well. At SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. Those are social media handles. Join in on the fun. Tell us the things that with which you agree, the things with which you don't. Joey P, my man, I got to give you the virtual hug and the good Italian goomba. Mwah, kiss. The fantasy this year is it's such the chef's kiss, man. It's just so good. It's changing the way everyone is playing. Everyone I know that's winning, 9 times out of 10, I'm like, oh, you know the black book? You know Joe Pisa? Yep, I know it. And it's just fantastic. Let's do some fantasy over-under with the man that makes it all happen. Basically, we're going to tell you some players. We'll give you some props, and then we'll talk about if Joe thinks it's going to happen or not. Let's start with Baker Mayfield. I love doing this because a lot of times you say smash. That's my favorite word. Baker Mayfield passing yards over under 38.25.5. Come on now. He smashed this last season. Minus 114 is your standard number here. Joe, I mean, thoughts? Let me present it this way. How does he not hit this number barring injury?
Well, I think I can tell you why it's
play go.
I think I can tell you why it's lower. He's gone over 4,000 yards 2 years in a row in Tampa, and he's changed offensive coordinators in multiple years there too, right? It was Canales first, right? And then it was Liam Cohn last year, and now this year it's going to be another one. So this is why it's set lower. I just want everybody to understand the thought process here. It's third different offensive coordinator in 3 years. Fair. Tristan Wirfs injury, fair. Chris Godwin injury to start the year, fair. Rookie wide receiver, Emeka Egbuka, fair. All of that is good reasoning of why you might want to take this down a peg. But this is still a smash for me at 38. I mean, I'm going over here because I feel like there's just no way this offense isn't built to go over 4,000 for Baker Mayfield again. It's very heavy towards throwing the football. Mike Evans is still there. Emeka Egbuka is extraordinary talent. So I know there's some injuries and I know there's some question marks, and I think that makes sense as to the why this number is so low. But it's still an over for me, and I think it's pretty comfortable. Do I expect him to get to 4,500 again? Probably not. But even in the Fantasy Pros projections, he's at 4,170. That's comfortably clearing this mark. So to me, this is one of the better props on the board right now. You can find this number at a lot of spots. But from a fantasy perspective, it's interesting too because he is being drafted behind Bo Nix currently in the real-time ADP on Fantasy Pros. And that's kind of surprising to me, considering Bo Nix has done it for one season and Baker Mayfield's done it for a few seasons now. So we'll see how things unfold, but I think this is a smash, Matt. How about you?
Look, unless this season's already been simulated by AI in the Matrix and something happens to Baker Mayfield, again, logic. This has to be an over. But this next one isn't as clear cut because you got a guy where you have no sample size, no precedent at the pro level, and it's Ashton Jonty for the rushing yards here. Over under of 1075.5 for the young man. Minus 114. Granted, he is hard to tackle. Joe, how does he get to this?
He is hard to tackle. And Pete Carroll also is a guy that's going to run the football. We know that. That's part of the philosophy of the Pete Carroll offense, right? You go back to the Marshawn Lynch days, and Ashton Jonty has a lot of little Marshawn in him, I think. I think that's a great way of looking at him. But he is a rookie, first-time player, and that is, I think, why you're seeing this number where it is. Now, the Fantasy Bros projections have him at 1220. So once again, that's pretty comfortable over 1075.5. I would go over, but this one is very close. You could see a scenario where it doesn't get necessarily right there. You could also see a scenario where he goes so far over this that we're all looking back and go, how do we not see this coming that he would have 1,300 or 1,400 rushing yards? He's that talented of a player, and the system should yield that. But I think on the conservative side, this one is not as gimme as Baker Mayfield is. I think this is a pretty good number. If he should miss time for injury, again, it would come down to this, and that's something to also keep in mind. NFL is a tougher game, much different scenario. So I'll go over. It's not as a smash over as the other one, but still an over for me. How about you, Matt?
I just think in a world where information is power, there's far more data on far more players and their options that truly it is a gamble to go on Ashton Jonty because you have nothing. And I mean nothing to go off. You can say the college portion of it all, but this is the pros here. Joe's points are correct. But for me, there are other things I'd feel better placing my money upon if it's a good enough answer. All right, let's go to something else here. We'll go to Calvin Ridley. There's your name that you haven't heard in a while, and I think you're going to be hearing it a bit more this season. Let's go to the receiving yards over under of 925.5. A rookie quarterback that a lot of people aren't talking about, but you and I behind the scenes agree that Ward may be the best rookie quarterback, no?
Well, yeah. I mean, Cam Ward certainly has looked pretty sharp in the preseason here. Here's a question for you. How many receiving yards did Calvin Ridley have last year, Matt? You want to take a stab at this off the top of your head, just out of curiosity? Give me a number. Pull it out of thin air.
Somewhere between 750 and 825.
That would be incorrect. He had 1,017 last year with Will Levis
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Clearly.
I think most people don't realize that, and understandably so. Titans were not good. So 925.5, this is extremely achievable here with Cam Ward. Calvin Ridley, over here for this one too. I know we got a lot of overs, but still, I just think this one is a very easy one. This number I think is set too low. He's actually had back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving years. 10-16 with the Jaguars in 23, 10-17 last year with Tennessee with a woeful quarterback situation. I think it's going to be much improved year over year. So give me Cam Ward to drag Calvin Ridley over the 1,000-yard mark too. I would even move this up if you could in certain markets, but it also makes Calvin Ridley a sneaky good wide receiver draft pick because you can get him right now. He's being drafted as the wide receiver 30 overall, and I think he is much closer to being wide receiver 20 overall with Cam Ward there.
All right, talk to me about where Emeka Egbuka is being drafted. We started with Baker Mayfield. We'll close with one of his new receivers. Over-under of 725.5. Where is he being drafted, and do you think he's going to hit this number?
He's being drafted as wide receiver 44, and right now the projections have him at 781. Again, it's always more difficult with rookies, but 781 is pretty solid as a baseline. 725, I think, is a little under, especially when you consider the fact that Chris Godwin's probably not going to start the year. However, when Chris Godwin comes back, does this number start to shade a little bit? This one, I think, is a trap potentially, because if Chris Godwin comes back and Egbuka's role starts to push back forward, push backwards, all of a sudden now Egbuka might not reach that threshold so comfortably. So that's the trap of all four of these. When we come back, more FST. Don't go anywhere.
The Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson per me and Tom Pelissero. It's unclear if the NFL sack leader will be playing elsewhere in 2025, and a trade will be a real challenge, but time will tell. You know what's not a real challenge? In the offseason, when he doesn't want to be here and you're trying to make a trade for him. Most people that say, okay, I have to sell a house or sell a car, let me put it out on the market, and I'll take the best deal that's available.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, they get some good young pitching, but they can never hit. They got boppers in that lineup. They got electric strikeout guys in the starting lineup for the pitching staff. Like, I feel like I'm rooting that team in, but also not just rooting them in. I think there's a legitimate chance they can take it down, Craig.
Yeah, I think so. Remember, I think I came on your show at the beginning of the season and took Detroit at the beginning of the season with you guys, and now I'm feeling like, hey, I got a shot.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. And obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
NFL win totals created because of Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jimmy Johnson came into the NFL from the Miami Hurricanes, somebody asked him, hey, how many games do you think they're going to win? I want to bet it. And no one had ever done it before. Unbelievable, Brady? And he said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to come up with a number. And he only came up for a number for the Cowboys. Then he said the phone started ringing.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST. It's fantasy sports today. Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia. That's right, he is the man. And Joe, it's really all about just bankrolling our lives. That's what everyone I know has some type of revolving account. It's a Netflix, it's a Spotify, it's whatever it is. Why not pay for that? And maybe your groceries with the simple love of sports. And then you've got guys like you and others here at this network where it's just smarter to be here that are giving you all the information. To me, it's just, if you don't do it, you're leaving money on the table. And I set that up for the FST Market Watch because Joe has been, I mean, I would say I'd have to look at the numbers. 75%, 77% right when we've been doing these for both football and baseball. And it's just a great way to really make some good money. So let's go. Most regular season passing yards for the upcoming season. I'll give you the first three and then I'll let you take it from there. At the top is Joe Burrow. Horrible defense. People expect him to throw for 5,500 yards. He's at plus 490. Behind him is Patrick Mahomes, plus 850. Then there's Dak Prescott, who's getting a little helium lately at plus 900. The addition of George Pickens definitely helps. Joe, begin there and then take us through. There are three more: Purdy, Goff, and Mayfield. Go.
Well, I want to start with Joe Burrow here because you're still getting almost 5-1 on this. And this was the guy that led it last year. He and Jamar Chase led in passing and receiving yards. And Joe Burrow, as you mentioned, is playing with, again, a terrible defense there in Cincinnati where he's going to have to throw the ball a ton. Last year, it's funny because he was QB3 overall, and he's not a rushing quarterback, right? He rushed for 200 yards. He's not a guy who's going to get out there in space rushing for a lot of touchdowns. That's not really his game, but he's still the fifth quarterback going off the board. And if you're looking for the sweet spot, if you want to get a lockdown top quarterback, it's not paying for the second round necessarily of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, although those guys are great. In the 10-team league, maybe you could do that and get away with it. But in a 12-team league, you'll see Joe Burrow in terms of ADP. He's going as the 37th, 38th player off the board, somewhere in that range. He's going after Hurts, after Daniels, but you basically get a huge red flag that shoots up there into the sky, right? A big flare where it tells you, hey, quarterbacks are going to start to go now. And then you have an option to sit back and select Joe Burrow, and chances are he will be the fourth or fifth quarterback off the board in your drafts. And for a guy that finished last year as QB3, to get him as the fifth guy, I think is pretty tremendous. And I see the same path for him ahead in 2025. I see that same path where he is going to once again lead the league here. And I don't think it's going to be close. Last year, the closest guy to him, ironically, somebody we were talking about Baker Mayfield was at 45. Jared Goff was at 46. Those are the closest guys. I don't know with the improved defense and the healthier defense of the Detroit Lions if Goff has to put up those kind of numbers yet again. Plus, it is a new offense, so there could be a little bit of growing pains early on there. And then Baker Mayfield, again, I don't think we're going to quite get to 4,500 again with him. Probably some regression will happen. And then basically what you're trying to do is you're looking for, is Dak Prescott ready to go and take that leap again? Maybe. Brock Purdy has an easy schedule, perhaps. But to me, it's an easy Joe Burrow. And I think this is one of the best wagers you can make. And in terms of turning into fantasy productivity, again, the fifth quarterback off the board, somewhere in the middle of the quarterback selected in your draft, is a guy that finishes the third best quarterback in fantasy. And he doesn't have nearly the concerns of the guys that run around in the pocket with the higher injury risk. So I like Joe Burrow. Now, the offensive line isn't great. But then again, when has it ever been good for Joe Burrow before?
Good point. We're talking with Joe Pisapia, the author of the Fantasy Black Book. On the other side of the break, we're going to do a Would You Rather with Joe with ADPs. But right now, we're talking about the Market Watch. So, Joe, if Joe Burrow, then Jamar Chase. Most regular season receiving yards for the upcoming year, Jamar Chase is at the top at plus 600. If you believe in Justin Jefferson and believe that he's quarterback proof, like Joe likes to say, plus 850. Nico Collins checks in at plus 1,000. And then you have Malik Neighbors, Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas Jr., CeeDee Lamb, and Drake London. Joe, where do you want to go?
Yeah, I think once again, it's that duo bet, right? Where I think you're just looking at this group and saying, yeah, it's Jamar Chase and it's Joe Burrow, and they're going to be extraordinary. And just like, the years of Brady and Moss or Marvin Harrison and Peyton Manning, I think you can set your watch to this. Now, look, plus 600, it's still a great number. I don't think Justin Jefferson is going to get there with a rookie QB. I just don't see that happening. Nico Collins is intriguing, but again, health has been an issue. Plus, they've refortified that wide receiver room. It might not only be Nico Collins as much. The guy that you would circle here as the potential that could be that dude again is CeeDee Lamb, because he was that dude just a couple years ago who was breaking the league. He went on a magical run. But are we just chasing that magical run of a couple years ago? And that's a big question we have to ask ourselves. And George Pickens is there now, too. Although they don't have a great run game, I do think that the Cowboys are going to throw the ball a ton. And CeeDee Lamb at plus 1,200, that would be the long shot for me. So if I'm betting this, it's CeeDee Lamb on the outside, who is going basically third or fourth overall. Jamar Chase, that 1-1 pick. Speaking of picks, we'll pick some players when we come back.
The Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson per me and Tom Pelissero. It's unclear if the NFL sack leader will be playing elsewhere in 2025. Any trade will be a real challenge, but time will tell. You know, it's not a real challenge in the offseason when he doesn't want to be here and you're trying to make a trade for him. Most people that say, okay, I have to sell a house or sell a car, let me put it out on the market and I'll take the best deal that's available.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, they get some good young pitching, but they can never hit. They got boppers in that lineup. They got electric strikeout guys in the starting lineup for the pitching staff. Like, I feel like I'm rooting that team in, but also not just rooting them in. I think there's a legitimate chance they can take it down, Craig.
Yeah, I think so. Remember, I think I came on your show at the beginning of the season and took Detroit at the beginning of the season with you guys, and now I'm feeling like, hey, I got a shot.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. And obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
NFL win totals created because of Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jimmy Johnson came into the NFL from the Miami Hurricanes, somebody asked him, hey, how many games do you think they're going to win? I want to bet it. And no one had ever done it before. Unbelievable, Brady? And he said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to come up with a number. And he only came up for a number for the Cowboys. Then he said the phone started ringing.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here. We got Sam Y, the sports guy, TD Jake, and Pat behind the glass making this thing go. And of course, all of you out there. Without you, there is no us. So let's get into an ADP Would You Rather here. This is going to be fun, Joe. I love when we do these. We're going to jump right into it here. We'll start with some wide receivers. Wide receiver 30 versus wide receiver 31. At an ADP of 70 and 72 respectively. One is Calvin Ridley, of whom we spoke in a prior segment. You mentioned how most people don't realize that he was a 1,000-yard receiver last year. So Calvin Ridley or Travis Hunter. Now, I think that the two-way play potential for Hunter damages him, right? If I'm underwriting him and I'm an insurance agent, he's a 2x risk against everyone else. I'm off Hunter. I would choose Ridley, but what says you?
Well, I says this is not close for me, and yet ADP says it's very close, and I vehemently disagree with this. I'm where you are. The two-way player thing is difficult, but also let's not forget in college, right? I mean, there were packages where he was in on offense, but corner was really his true position. So he is not nearly as polished as a wide receiver as a lot of people want to make him out to be. He is not Tetairoa McMillan, folks. And I would take Tetairoa McMillan over both of these guys, just to be clear, who's going in the similar range. He's been shooting up the ADP ranks as I've been running my mouth the last couple of weeks here on the show. But Calvin Ridley, we just talked about. Calvin Ridley, back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Some terrible quarterback play last year, still went over that mark. This year is playing with Cam Ward, again, a very serious young man who has had a pretty good preseason, is showing you he can make all the throws. He gets rid of the football quickly. There's a lot to like with Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward has taken a lot of slings and arrows, and a lot of us are going to look up here in like week 10 and go, man, yeah, Cam Ward's pretty good at football. And I think there will be some struggles like every other rookie has. But overall, I think it's going to be a huge upgrade for him. And considering these guys are going back-to-back, 70 and 72 overall, if I'm looking for a wide receiver, I'm taking Calvin Ridley. And it's not close to me. And I think some of the hype post-draft of Travis Hunter is starting to fade a little bit. Brian Thomas Jr. should not be hurt either by his arrival. I've seen some people trying to make that case like, oh, BTJ is not a first-round pick. Okay, that's fine. Let me take him in the first round for you. And you can take Travis Hunter later, and we'll see who the alpha dog is in that offense.
Oh, I love it. Joe's in a mood. Let's keep the train rolling, talking wide receivers, and then we'll get to some running backs. And if we have time, quarterbacks as well. All right, ADP of 86 for wide receiver 38, or an ADP of 88 for wide receiver 40. Wide receiver 38 is Stephon Diggs. Wide receiver 40 is Jacoby Myers. This is a no contest for me. I'm all in on Diggs, but want to hear from you.
Look, I understand the Myers vision here because he is safer. You know he's healthy. You know what he's going to give you. Every year, Jacoby Myers finishes as like wide receiver 24. And it's always very quiet, and he's always being drafted somewhere around wide receiver 40. And we all look at each other and we're looking for value in PPR leagues. Jacoby Myers is a good draft investment. So I don't want to throw shade on him. I'm wearing the Raider shirt today. So I'm not going to throw shade on Jacoby Myers. As a fantasy asset, he's still the best wide receiver in that room. There's no doubt about that. Thornton's an interesting late pick. Besh is an interesting developmental project there. But I'm with you. The swing for the fences is Stephon Diggs, because I think the ceiling for Jacoby Myers, even with Geno Smith, is probably somewhere around wide receiver 22. The ceiling for Diggs with Drake May could potentially be wide receiver 13, 14, 15 in that range. So, yeah, I think we're trying to win leagues here. And as your third or fourth wide receiver, I think I'd rather swing for Stephon Diggs and see if he can get back to where he was, because what I've seen with my own eyes so far in camp is a very healthy looking Stephon Diggs. So even if September is a little bit scaled back and dialed back just for precautionary reasons, don't panic about that. Understand that that's just the organization doing their due diligence with him. But Diggs has money to play for here. And a guy like Diggs, when there's money on the line, is going to show up. That's just his personality. So give me Diggs. We are holding hands on this one as well.
Oh boy, I love it. Okay, let's walk down the street then. Let's go to running backs. An ADP of 90 for running back 32, who's Travis Etienne, or an ADP of 92 for running back 33, who's Quinshon Judkins. Again, I think you can hear from the inflection in my voice. It's Etienne for me, clearly, but I want to hear from you, Joe.
Yeah, this one is not close for me either. One of these guys was RB3 last year, and it was Travis Etienne. And he just got a new coach in Liam Cohen, who showed you he knows how to work a running back room. So I get it. The fear is Tank Bigsby takes goal line carries and does some early down work. I understand that. I understand Bishal Tootin was drafted as well. And Tootin is a very exciting, explosive young running back, but he is a rookie. And Travis Etienne is on the last year of his deal. They weren't able to trade him. They weren't able to move on. And it just seems like if I'm looking for the fantasy back, I want the pass catching back. I want the guy who, once again, was being drafted basically as a second round pick last year. And now look at him. He's almost going as the 100th player overall. I think sometimes the short-term memory loss of fantasy managers is too much. And if you're going to give me that kind of value and it's wrong, it's not going to hurt my fantasy team. I'm still going to be able to move on from Travis Etienne. Or if you want, take him and Bigsby and just control the backfield. Or him and Tootin and just kind of give yourself a 66% chance. I'm going to start to do the Scott Steiner math in a second here. But somewhere around a 66.6% chance of you having all the productivity in that Jaguars backfield. Quinshon Judkins, late to camp, late to sign as a rookie. You know, good talent, like the talent a lot, but lots of questions there with the Cleveland Browns. I'll take ATN. And again, the fact that these guys are going back to back, I think is kind of nuts personally.
All right. I appreciate the conviction. All right, let's talk quarterbacks here. Quarterback 11 and quarterback 12, ADP of 96 and 97 respectively. So you got to make a choice. Is it Jared Goff or is it Dak Prescott? Now, Joe, the previous ones we've been talking about to me have all been easy. This one, not so much.
This is trickier. Jared Goff is certainly, I think, safer at this point. It's a very easy equation with Dak Prescott. When he's healthy, he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback. When he's not, he isn't. So it's a matter of, is Dak Prescott going to play a full season? And, you know, I think now the question that's open for discussion is, what is this new offense here in Detroit? How different is it going to be? How much are they going to have to change and develop? Now, the great thing is Goff has a ton of weapons at his disposal. We've also given Dak Prescott George Pickens year over year. Where Dak Prescott's going to lack is he doesn't have a Jahmyr Gibbs to pad his stats necessarily, where you're going to get yards after catch and just pad those Jared Goff stats with those explosive runs that he's capable of, not to mention the big playability of guys like Jameson Williams, who took a big step forward last year. So I think the safer pick is Jared Goff, but I think Jared Goff's ceiling is what you saw last year. And I want to come back to that note about the defense. The defense was an absolute mash unit last year. Aiden Hutchinson broke his leg early on, and then they had more injuries on defense than I've ever seen one team have. I don't see that happening year over year. That's just that injury regression. They're going to be healthier. It's just the law of averages, which means that defense with the Cowboys, I think, is a little bit more suspect. Micah Parsons is unhappy. A lot of guys are coming back from injury. I think you could see Dak once again back in that top 5 conversation. I don't see that for Jared Goff. So this is really a lesson of, hey, wait on quarterbacks in single QB leagues, take the value where it is, because these guys are the 11th and 12th quarterbacks overall. I'll take Dak, but if you take Goff, I understand why. Matt, do you have a preference here?
So I like Goff's weaponry, and there's just been uncertainty about Dallas. But Pickens, if Prescott, let's just say, because they're going back to back here, if Goff was plucked, let's say Sam, our producer, took him right before me because he has a tendency to do that in drafts that we all do together because that's fun. I would be okay with getting Dak Prescott just because of the fact that Pickens is there, and like you said, when healthy, he's you can't deny him. But there is that cowboy stigma around the whole entire thing. All right, with the time that we have left, we're going to take one from social media at SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. Hit us up. We want to hear from you. Let me scroll. All right, this is a good one here. Wide receiver 44 versus wide receiver 45, going at 100 and 101 respectively, is Matthew Golden from Green Bay and Emeka Egbuka from Tampa Bay. Both rookies here. Joe, where are we going?
Well, I'd like to take them both and pretend that I'm picking on the turn, and I just take them both. And I'm happy because I get both these guys. But I can't do that. And for the sake of the show, I'm going to lean towards Matthew Golden because I think that over the rest of the entire year, he is the wide receiver 1 there. They spent that kind of capital. Jaden Reed is a good complimentary guy, but he's hurt. The rest of that wide receiver room is a complete disaster in terms of health right now. Egbuka is going to be that guy early on along with Evans. But when Godwin comes back, McMillan comes back, we just don't know. I think Egbuka is going to have a great season. I'm drafting both these guys. But if I can only get one, Golden's my guy. We'll be right back with more FST. Don't go anywhere.
The Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson per me and Tom Pelissero. It's unclear if the NFL sack leader will be playing elsewhere in 2025, and a trade will be a real challenge, but time will tell. You know it's not a real challenge? In the offseason, when he doesn't want to be here and you're trying to make a trade for him. Most people that say, okay, I have to sell a house or sell a car, let me put it out on the market, and I'll take the best deal that's available.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, they get some good young pitching, but they can never hit. They got boppers in that lineup. They got electric strikeout guys in the starting lineup for the pitching staff. Like, I feel like I'm rooting that team in, but also not just rooting them in. I think there's a legitimate chance they can take it down, Fred.
Yeah, I think so. Remember, I think I came on your show at the beginning of the season and took Detroit at the beginning of the season with you guys, and now I'm feeling like, hey, I got a shot.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. Now, obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
NFL win totals created because of Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jimmy Johnson came into the NFL from the Miami Hurricanes, somebody asked him, hey, how many games do you think they're going to win? I want to bet it. And no one had ever done it before. Unbelievable, Brady? And he said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to come up with a number. And he only came up for a number for the Cowboys. Then he said the phone started ringing.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia with you here. It's time to get into some late round sleepers. Our buddy TD Jake is behind the glass now as Sam Y, the sports guy, has gone on to go and produce the show that is following us. And you should stick around because I'm telling you, those guys are cashing all the time. All right, Joe, let's go to late round sleepers. Easy enough for me to say. Let's go to the Chargers here. Good offensive line. They probably will run the ball more, but Keenan Allen is back in the fold here. wide receiver 56, an ADP of 151. Tell me why this is a sleeper for you.
Well, look, I tried to pick guys all going outside the top 150, and it's ironic because after this weekend, if you look at the real-time ADP over on Fantasy Pros, he's actually cracked the 150 now. He's at 143. So things are starting to change, and I want everybody else to kind of get on board and understand if they've got a draft today or during the week or even next weekend, that Keenan Allen's going to be a little bit more expensive. So he's leapfrogged a bunch of guys here. I can name some of those names: Rashad Bateman, Darnell Mooney, Jaden Higgins, Christian Kirk. He's actually getting closer and closer, and I do think he will be in the top 50 wide receivers by the time we get to next weekend. That's going to be that group with Keon Coleman, Chris Godwin. And this is one of the reasons why I like Justin Herbert so much in Superflex leagues, because he's got Ladd McConkey, he's got a veteran Keenan Allen that he's got a rapport with and a history with of being extremely productive. Trey Harris is a great young rookie. Omarion Hampton's there to really, once again, we talk about padding the stats as running backs, right? The yards after catch for Omarion Hampton are going to be much better than what we saw last year from that running back room. So he's in a really good spot. And Keenan Allen, I think, if you are somebody that goes early for running backs in your draft, we talked about Stephon Diggs being a guy you could make up ground with, right? A guy you could draft as a 4 that could be a 2. Keenan Allen is a guy that you could draft as a 5. It can end up being an easy wide receiver 3. Now, is he going to be Keenan Allen of 4 years ago? No. He's an older player, but he was still pretty darn productive last season, and I think going back home here with the Chargers is a great fit.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly. All right, let's move on here. ADP of 156. So Joe's criteria was outside the 150, but using those tools with the daily ADP tracker that Joe's talking about, it really says so much. Marvin Mims is the name, wide receiver 57. And just for context, we were talking earlier in the show how Bo Nix is going, what, QB6, QB7?
Yeah, and Marvin Mims also has moved up here in the real-time ADP from 156 on Friday to 150. And you might say, well, that's not a big move. It's significant. Once guys start to move up here at wide receiver into that top 150 range, it changes the calculus, and there's less of these quote-unquote sleepers around. But what you saw to Marvin Mims last year was the ability to make big plays and big touchdowns, and I think that's going to be his role in the offense this year as well. Evan Ingram is not the greatest red zone threat of all time. He's more of a possession tight end kind of an effort. He's not like Rob Gronkowski around the goal line area. That's not his MO necessarily. And Cortland Sutton is going to have his 1,000+ yards and 8 touchdowns. So somebody else has to do some dirty work here, and I think it's going to be Marvin Mims. And I think what you saw last year is it's tough to say, oh, it's projectable, but I do think it's something that when you're taking shots here, you're looking for a bye week coverage wide receiver on your roster or a guy that has upside who's young enough to grow into more of a role. I think the development of Bo Nix was stunningly good last year. If we can build on that again this year, I think Marvin Mims is a really good selection as the 57th wide receiver off the board. I would take it.
All right. FST hack number 213. Running backs you need to know. Let's go to Miami. We talked about Devon Achane, calf, not practicing. Jalen Wright also with an injury. So where do people go? Please, you got to educate us. Give us a name that we don't know. ADP, RB, what? Go.
Well, I have to be honest. Ollie Gordon was not necessarily on my radar coming into the season. Jalen Wright was, because I want the backup guy to Devon Achane, because I know Miami's going to run the ball a ton, and the running backs can be bountiful there. We've seen plenty of running backs work in the system at the same time. Just recently, Mostert having 20 touchdowns in the same year that Devon Achane is also useful, right? So this system can yield a lot of volume at the running back position. But Ollie Gordon's that guy now, and you're getting a good value on him. Again, he's moving up quickly. The real-time ADP of him is at 155 overall, RB 57. And I went back even this weekend and watched some more tape of Oklahoma State Ollie Gordon, and I was impressed. I liked him in the draft process. When he landed with Miami, I just thought, he's a good running back, but he's kind of buried on the depth chart there. And now all of a sudden he's not, because Achane has a calf issue. Jalen Wright has an injury. So Ollie Gordon could be the starting running back week 1. And if he plays well, he could carve out some sort of tandem role here. It's not impossible. Achane to me is still a very suspect late first round pick. I don't like him there. I'd rather have Drake London. I'd rather have Brian Thomas Jr. There's a lot of players. Derrick Henry. The fact that he can go out of Derrick Henry makes my head hurt personally. But Ollie Gordon is a name that you need to know. I guarantee you in casual leagues, most people won't be on this. But to open the season, again, if you're a big wide receiver build like I am, in terms of roster construction, you're looking for shots at RB. Ollie Gordon is a really good September shot at running back.
I love it. I can picture Joe in his film room eating his pane paella in his palatial estate in Somerset, New Jersey, just watching film. All right, we're going to take one from social media here at SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. People are asking for a quarterback sleeper. Who do you have, Joe?
Well, Geno Smith has a lot of good things working for him. He's got the old ball coach where he saw his most success. It's funny, if I asked you what QB he was last season in terms of finish, where would you say QB what would Geno Smith be in the top 25 QBs? That's exactly right. QB nice. 13. It's pretty good. Job, in Superflex leagues here, you can get him pretty darn late. I mean, right now he is going as the 24th quarterback off the board. That's a value. He's got Brock Bowers. He's got Ashton Genty. He's got a lot around him. So to me, I'm looking at Geno Smith as like, if some reason you missed out on these runs at QB, Geno Smith is your second quarterback. If you've got a Burrow, if you've got somebody pretty solid at the top, you'll be okay. He's got a lot of weapons to work with. He's got a familiarity with the head coach and probably the offense are going to be running. So I think there's a lot of positive things here for Geno Smith here with the Las Vegas Raiders. Is he a top 10 quarterback? No, but is he a fringy QB1 if everything breaks right? Yeah. And last year was not the best scenario for him necessarily. And the last guy here, again, I don't like to play with kickers in my fantasy league, but if you do, why not take a shot on Cam Little, especially if you've got a situation where you get bonuses for distance field goals. This is the guy that kicked the 70-yard field goal in the preseason, and he's got a big leg. So if you're looking for bonuses, why not 197, kicker number 9 off the board? They're all pretty much the same. Why not take the guy that seems to be maybe making some records this season? We'll be right back with 3 and Out. Don't miss it.
The Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson for me and Tom Pelissero. It's unclear if the NFL sack leader will be playing elsewhere in 2025, and a trade will be a real challenge, but time will tell. You know it's not a real challenge? In the offseason, when he doesn't want to be here and you're trying to make a trade for him. Most people that say, okay, I have to sell a house or sell a car, let me put it out on the market, and I'll take the best deal that's available.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, they get some good young pitching, but they can never hit. They got boppers in that lineup. They got electric strikeout guys in the starting lineup for the pitching staff. Like, I feel like I'm rooting that team in, but also not just rooting them in. I think there's a legitimate chance they can take it down, Craig.
Yeah, I think so. Remember, I think I came on your show at the beginning of the season and took Detroit at the beginning of the season with you guys, and now I'm feeling like, hey, I got a shot.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. Now, obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
NFL win totals created because of Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jimmy Johnson came into the NFL from the Miami Hurricanes, somebody asked him, hey, how many games do you think they're going to win? I want to bet it. And no one had ever done it before. Unbelievable, Brady? And he said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to come up with a number. And he only came up for a number for the Cowboys. Then he said the phone started ringing.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia with you here, giving you absolutely everything you need. Everyone's excited. If you're drafting this week, good luck. Go out and get them, folks. Everyone, I hope something absolutely wonderful happens to you today. And if you keep repeating that to yourself over and over again, when you go to sleep at night, think about all the wonderful things that happened to you today. It works. It's time for 3 and Out. The first wonderful thing that happened to me today, Joe, I'm not kidding, is I get to sit here with you. You're the author of the Fantasy Black Book. I have the man locked in for an hour and I'm just talking fantasy football. I mean, how can I lose? I can't. 3 and out are the 3 things that Joe's looking forward to this week. And then we return next week. God willing, we live and be well. And we talk about them. So what do you got?
Thanks, Grandma. That's my grandma used to say every time. God willing, we'll all be here again next year. Yes, thanks, Grandma.
Grandma Rose? What's the Italian grandma
Anna.
in your house?
Anna. This one was Anna.
Okay.
Yeah. God willing. And home sweet home, may it ever be so humble. She used to say all the time when she would come in. And we used to laugh because when we would drop her back off at the house, she would always say it. And then she knew that we would chuckle when she said it. So then she said it under her breath for the rest of it.
All right, come on. Andiamo, zupido. 3 and out. Andiamo.
There you go. All right, these are the things to watch for. And the first one is Matthew Stafford's back. He's back at practice. But how is that back after all? He needs a backiotomy. That's what like Dave Chappelle used to say. But Matthew Stafford, if he's healthy, the Rams have a chance to repeat as the winners of this division and go to a Super Bowl. That's how good I think the Rams could be. If that back isn't right or he gets injured during the season, it's going to be a question. Now you're seeing the ADP fall of guys like Puka Nacua. I was at a draft last week where he fell out of the first round completely. And he went, I think, 14th overall. And I get it. I understand why. I think it's a real concern. Plus Puka Nacua's injury history. I see Devontae Adams start to draft a little bit and drop. I think both of those guys are things to monitor. And if you're getting a good enough discount, I think you have to take a shot because this could all just be overblown nonsense. This could all just be, hey, backs bother me. What are we doing here? I'm not going to push it. It's preseason. He knows how to manage his body. He's been in the league for, 16 years now. How long has Matthew Stafford been in the league? A long time. Why are we trying to push Matthew Stafford? The goal is the Super Bowl, right? Who cares about August? So a lot of this can completely overblown right now. So I think you might just take that value where you can get it and hope for the best when it comes to Matthew Stafford. But this week is important. You want to follow the news with him. Devon Achane, that calf issue, calf issues are really tricky. I'm not saying he's going to be on the PUP list or anything like that, but it is something to monitor. And he is a small running back. And I think chasing last season is just a problem. I can't take him over Derrick Henry at the end of the first round. I think it's crazy. And Ollie Gordon's a player we talked about. Here's the preseason stats for Ollie Gordon, Matt. 26 attempts, 126 rushing yards, 4.8 yards per carry, and a touchdown. Not too shabby. Jalen Wright, on the other hand, 1.5 yards per carry so far in his touches in the preseason. It has not gone well for Jalen Wright. And then, of course, another backfield to watch is the Browns' backfield. Is it Dylan Sampson? Is it Quinshon Judkins? Is it old standby Jerome Ford? The answer is it's probably all of them, and that's probably enough to stay away. But I imagine Jerome Ford early in September being that guy that will probably get most of that work with the veterans as they try their best to, put their best foot forward, I think, in Cleveland, try to win as many games as they can before they have to inevitably turn it over one more time. Matt, when it comes to that Cleveland Browns backfield, any shares for you? I know all these guys are going late, but is there one guy that maybe you want to take a shot at?
No, you can have them all. No, it's simple. Look, we live in a world here where everyone likes to overthink and overtalk. And I kind of could sort of. Short answer, folk. What do you? Brevity is the sincerest form of wit. Something to that effect. That's your Shakespeare quote. The answer is no. I want no part of that at all. With the time that we have left, Joe, and segueing in and leading into the show that follows us, I wanted to kind of take a diversion here and ask you, how are you wagering on baseball this time of year? What's your strategy? Because coming up after the break, brand new show, but they've been winning so much money over there. I'm curious, how does Joey P wager baseball in the end of August?
Well, right now it's that war of attrition. Hopefully you listen to our show all summer and you bet on those Brewers. The first team to 80 wins, I might add. But yeah, look, I think this Zach Wheeler injury to this Phillies rotation is a huge one. I think mentally, physically, no Aaron Nola most of the year and now no Zach Wheeler the rest of the year. That's going to be tough. I think the Phillies did a great job solidifying that bullpen. They just can't catch a break. I think this really hurts the Phillies' chances to go to the World Series this year, to be honest with you, Matt. But right now, I think the Mets have got to pull themselves up by the haunches a little bit. I think that the Blue Jays are surprisingly still at the top of that East, for me at least. And we're seeing an interesting transition where a little bit more parity in baseball, which is making it, I think, more fun for the fan bases, but a little bit harder to wager on. So stay with us so you can learn how to do that. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Matt Stryker, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.